here at the Minneapolis North American Bridge Championships, but we came in early.
For the American Bridge Teacher Association Conference.
Patty, how long have you been teaching bridge?
I've been teaching bridge, well, pretty much all my life. Started in my 20s, but teaching bridge full-time for about 35 years.
So you started in your 20s teaching. Did you come from a bridge playing family?
Both my parents played bridge. I played duplicate bridge. And I was 11, I guess. A local player was going to offer lessons, and I begged my mother, I want to learn to play bridge. She was kind of like, no, Caddy, no. And I did what kids do. Yes, I do, yes, I do, yes, I do.
Yeah, the more you tell them no.
Oh, yes.
That's the thing, is if you want your kids to play bridge, don't say go play bridge.
Right, you say you cannot
play bridge.
But luckily, my sister just got her driver's license, so that was the deal breaker. My mother said, if you'll take Caddy to bridge, pick her up, you can have the car on Friday night. So that was it.
What personality types are drawn to this game?
I think it's people that like puzzles, people that like a challenge. They like a challenge for themselves. Not necessarily to challenge other people, but they want something that really they have to work hard for.
There's so many interesting people in this game, and what drives this need. And I was talking to a friend's son who's early 20s. He's going computer science up in Canada, and she was driving him back from Bellingham, Washington, across the border, and she called me up in the car, and she's like, "You just explained bridge a little bit to Travis," and he started talking. After I did, she's like, he's interested, he wants to learn.
Right.
The part she wanted me to really tell him is I was on one of the first early internet games. I was a big gamer in the 90s. I was on a lot of games, and actually the game I was on is the longest running online game. And one of the reasons I ever got here to bridge is because of my online gaming eventually led my way towards bridge.
Right.
Because I had played spades. But yeah, so he's a big gamer, and then I explained I've done all the games, the Civilization, the Dooms, the Diablos, and all these games, but once I found bridge in 2004, I was not interested in pretty much any other game. It kind of pales in comparison, although I play a lot of Hearts with my kids, because it's fun, it's easy.
Well, Hearts is a good start.
Yeah, it's great.
Trick-taking game, and one where you have to work against opponents to become successful, and there's some strategy to it.
Yeah, there's a great deal of strategy.
So there's a lot of things that are like bridge, not like bridge, but similar to it. But I think that people that take to bridge, as we said, they like a challenge, they like the puzzle, they like the strategy of it, trying to outthink your other people. And one of the things people always talk about bridge and chess. You know, that chess is one of the mind games and all of that. But chess has a limited number of moves. I mean, there's a lot of them, but it's limited. There's only a certain way the pieces can move. There's only a certain way you can move and a way an opponent can move after that. In bridge, you add human element. So it's not only a strategy and a skill and a math game or logic, the logic of it, but it's also, you have to have a certain understanding of the human element, and you have to understand yourself, and it requires a lot of self-discipline, which not many games do. One of the things when I'm teaching beginners that we talk about is that you're going to make a mistake. Everybody makes a mistake.
How many mistakes are we going to make this week playing bridge, Patty?
Oh, at least 5, 10, 20 per game.
Per game.
You just hope they're not costly. And when you make a mistake in bridge, you cannot think about it after it's over. You have to put it aside. I see more people lose a game because they get so worried about something that happened at hand 4 that they haven't forgotten it by hand 20, and they've made 6 other mistakes because they're not concentrating.
Yeah, or somebody could be having a good game, and they have that bad board, and then they start doing crazy stuff to make up for the bad instead of just digging in. And I think that is what is the difference between the higher level players. The higher level players
can make a mistake and put it aside.
Put it aside, and they can also sit in their seat and just keep digging in and doing the grinds. even when it's boring. Like, it can be boring at times to grind through the hands.
Well, one of the things we talk about to the school teachers when we're doing the Jumpstart Bridge, our initiative for school children, is one of the things that I impress upon them that I think is so important is that in bridge, you make a mistake or something goes wrong, you have to just go on. You don't quit in the middle of a hand. You have to go to plan B. You have to try and recover. And if it's still all just as wrong and it doesn't go well, you don't quit the game. You just have to go on to the next hand. And that's so much a life lesson. Lots of things have not turned out exactly the way I might have wanted them to in my life.
Right.
But you don't quit.
But you learn a lot of lessons.
You learn
usually.
lessons. You try and not let it happen the next time. And you keep going. And I think especially a lot of the children that fall into the gifted category are the ones that are even attracted to bridge. Sometimes bridge is the thing that makes them feel belong, like they belong, and the thing they understand, and the thing that they become good at. And every child deserves the chance to be exposed to things that it turns out to be their thing.
Yeah.
That this is their piece.
Yeah.
So I feel really strongly about that it should be offered.
So let's go back to Jumpstart Bridge and kind of like when I first started playing bridge, but you were doing the Atlanta program. I just remember that, just kind of like hearing your name. And then you came out to do the bridge in a day in Marin, which you recently told me was your biggest.
Right.
Which that was cute, especially because I was one of the organizers.
174 people.
Huge. Yeah, it was big. And then, so I'm brand new learning to play bridge. So how did you get into the Jumpstart? Like, how did that eventually go? And now it's become successful. So tell me the arc of you trying to get the younger generations into bridge and all the different ways that you did it. Because if somebody's trying to come up with their own program or trying to do it in their community, what are all of the lessons that we can learn from you?
Well, one of the things that we found out in Atlanta, we did start in Atlanta. There was a whole group of us. There were about 14 people that got together, and we said we want to get school bridge started in Atlanta. We were not going to conferences or anything. We were actually trying to get into the schools. We ran 10 summer camps the first summer, 2006. I taught over 150 kids how to play bridge that summer. And then in about 3 different areas in Atlanta, we kept on Saturday mornings, so one was at a teacher's home in the afternoon, 2 of them were like that. One was at a rec center, one at a library. I did mine at a bridge club on Saturday morning. That we kept it going, and the kids weren't required to be there. It was like a small lesson, and then you got to play for a while, and then you went home. An hour and a half or 2 hours of bridge.
Not too long.
And we let the kids, we told them, if you can come every week, that's just great. We're going to have a little lesson every week. If you can't, that's fine. We just want you to come. And we had kids coming for 5 or 6 years. I mean, it was amazing. That's when we did the first youth in ABC in 2008. And then ACBL took over because we don't have enough to do. We didn't have enough funds to keep the youth in ABC going. But we wanted to show you that it could be done. And we had kids come from all over the country. We had kids from Alaska. We had some kids from Canada. I would say Montauk. We even had a kid come from Germany.
Oh, wow.
Who had heard we were going to do it. So that was really exciting.
So you started the Youth NABCs then?
Yeah.
Or your group? Yeah.
Well,
that's a group.
I wanted to do it in auditorium with, like theater seating.
Oh.
So we actually had volunteers that went and set up cameras and did a view graph of the kids playing on the last Sunday. And the parents went into the auditorium and taught so they could watch their kids play. And we had somebody doing a commentary about the hands. The parents didn't play bridge.
So Jumpstart Bridge, you moved your Atlanta program to...
After COVID.
Right.
Because everything, we basically disintegrated after COVID. And we had gotten older. I mean, we were talking, COVID was 2018.
Yeah.
So 10 years people have been volunteering their time to teach. And everybody was getting kind of tired. I think I might be the only one that still had a class going every week. And then COVID hit, and that just kind of did us in.
But then, did you come up with the idea to then start getting the teachers involved?
I've always thought we needed to have the school teachers involved because they're there every day, every week. And they'll be there the next year, and they'll be there the next year. And if we got enough teachers involved, I thought we could get schools involved, and maybe get after-school clubs involved. The teachers need to be involved because they're the ones that understand how the school system works. And they understand the principal and the parents, and they just have all the contact that we can't have.
Right. I tried to explain to, like, you know, because I came into Bridge, I was pregnant with my daughter, right? So then people watched me with my kids growing up, and like, they're like, yeah, we're gonna get into school, we're gonna get into schools. I'm like, that's not easy. Right? You can't even get on school campuses.
I was going to say, it's so dangerous now. The world is
different.
Kind of different. Yeah. So now, what we've decided to do this year is we're going to have a Dallas Diddle and Bridge in a Day.
Okay.
So, which is what we did in Marin County. So what we're going to do is reach out to all the teachers that held classes or ran tournaments and say to them, is your school looking for a fundraiser this fall? Jumpstart Bridge will come in and do a Learn Bridge in a Day, or a bridge battle game for younger kids at no cost to your school, and you can charge whatever you want, and all the proceeds will go to your school for a fundraiser. Because the teachers would actually know who to talk to at the school to try and get something arranged.
Yeah.
And I figure all the schools need money, right? I don't know what's going to happen. We might have 1, we might have 10, who knows? But it also gives us an opportunity to, part of the thing that we've been struggling with also is making a connection between the local bridge players and the schools and the teachers, because they're so leery of people coming on campus.
Yes.
But if we run a fundraiser that's a bridge fundraiser and we need helpers at Learn Bridge in a Day, then we can say, because it's not coming in during the school day, it's coming as a part of the community.
Yeah.
We can get the local club to come help with the tables, with the supplies. Maybe they'll run which, but I can start making it where the school and the bridge club know each other and feel comfortable with each other and can work together. So I'm hoping it'll be a win-win-win from all sides.